Alrighty. So I always use blocks in my practice, but if you don't have blocks, you could use a book, a stack of books. I have water bottles if they're the same height. So just something to give you a boost up away from the floor. Even the seat of a chair works great. I like props. And then I'm sitting up on a blanket, but again, you could use a towel, or if you're comfortable sitting on your mat, just sit on your mat. So my theme this week is resiliency, which I think is just necessary for life. It's that ability to move out of a state of heightened um, crisis mode, right? Whether it's through your body, whether it's an injury, or whether it's a mental state, right? To have it be some kind of um, issue, damage, concern, anxiety, and then to be able to move through that to the other side and live your life with relative ease and comfort. And I say relative because ease is different for everyone. And what might have been ease before such a thing happened is not the same kind of ease that you might have afterwards. So that's resiliency, this ability to bounce back. And it might not be a bounce, maybe it's just a lift. So our bodies have this, which is amazing, that we can go through all kinds of stuff and the body's able to kind of pull itself back together enough to function. Which is fantastic and super useful for our yoga. We play with resiliency a lot in practice. So that's the idea today. We're doing things that help build resiliency and help encourage resiliency. So you can be in any position, sitting upright or lying down. We'll take a minute and do our little bit of meditation, like our 2-minute meditation. So your eyes are heavy or closed. If you're sitting up, sit tall. And then just settle in. Notice what feels good in your body today and what maybe holds a little tightness. So you feel all the aspects of your body. I think it's really good to notice what works in addition, because we tend to be drawn to what doesn't feel so great. And it's fine that parts of your body might be stiffer in the morning. It's normal. And then stay connected to your breath just for a moment more. And notice where that breath tends to fill and what parts of your upper body, again, don't tend to move on the wave of your breath. And then place your palms together, thumbs at heart. I'm going to sing Om to you. You can join in with me or sing it silently. Take your breath in. Let your hands release down to your lap. Your eyes flutter open, and we're all going to come onto our backs. So you might want something underneath your head. I've got my handy blanket. And we're going to take a moment in what I like to call constructive rest. So that varies, but I walk my feet 1 foot further than I might do bridge pose, lifting up my hips. So I just walk my feet a little bit further, hips stay down. And you've got some options here. I like knees pointed up towards the ceiling, but many people like to step their feet out a little wider and let their knees roll in. And I've even seen folks who like to let their knees roll out to the sides. So you choose, knees in, knees out, knees up. And we're just gonna breathe here. So your body settles down towards the mat. And see in this change of shape, where your breath tends to go. Do you notice it more in your upper chest? Do you feel your rib cage expand and contract? And might there be some movement down in the lowest part of your belly? And then just keep a thread of awareness on your breath throughout the entirety of our practice. And I'll remind you, pick up one foot at a time, pulling your knees into either side, and you're in a child's pose on your back. So it doesn't matter how far your knees pull into your chest, you're just picking them up off of the floor, taking a second here and lying down, child's pose. Good. And then put your left foot down, point your foot and straighten your leg as much as it wants to straighten. No hands, and it might not straighten all the way, that's fine. And then pull your toes back towards your own shin bone and re-bend your knee, hugging your heel in. And do that again. Point your toes and extend your leg. Flex your foot and draw your heel back. One more time. Point and up, flex and back. Set your right foot down. We'll do the same thing on the second side. So you're going to point your left foot and then raise your left leg as much as it wants to come up. Pull your toes back, dorsiflexion, and then root your heel down. And again, point your toes or plantar flexion, extend your leg, flex your foot, heel back. Last round, point and extend, flex and heel down. Set both feet down. And once again, take an appreciative moment just to notice your breath. Good. Hug your knees back in towards your chest, and this time take a little rock from side to side. Roll over your sacrum, the flat part between your hip bones. Roll yourself all the way over to the side and sit yourself up. All righty. So we get to do feet and toes. So maybe your hips are up on a blanket. If your knee is uncomfortable with the pressure of your other leg, you can slide a block under your left thigh bone as you cross your right leg over. Take your left hand, I'm mirroring for this one, put it through your right toes. Feet and toes are pretty consistent. I do nothing else the same in my classes. I usually mix things up, but we always do feet and toes. Though sometimes I shake it up there too. I put different things in. So I'm rolling through my foot forward and back. Good, and then pause, spread your fingers and take your fingers out from your toes. And then take the top of your foot and pull down, just stretching out the top of your foot in that pointed toe, plantar flexion. And then pull your toes back. You're flexing at your ankle into dorsiflexion, toes back towards your shins. And repeat that again. Pull and point, press and flex. And now sit your hands down and do those actions without your hands, drawing your toes back as far as they'll go towards your shin, pointing your toes away towards the left. And one more time. Flex and then point. Good. Release. Uncross your leg, extend it out in front of you. Maybe put your block on the second side or not. Cross your left leg over your right. Weave your right fingers through your left toes. Try and get all the way in there. That pinky toe and fourth toe tend to be a little resistant. So go ahead and wiggle. And then do the rolling action through your feet. I like to start from the bottom up, waking up our feet, getting our legs to respond, recovering from whatever we might have done the day before. Good. And then pause here, widen. So you're creating that toe spread, super important. And then slide your hand out and relax your foot. Alrighty. And then go ahead and use your hand to pull on your foot and make a point. And then stretch in the opposite direction, toes back, pulling your foot back as far as it will go without strain. And then point. And then flex. And then again, one more time with your hand, pulling and pointing, stretching at the top of your foot. And pulling your toes back. And then set your hands down and just do this by engaging muscles to pull towards toes towards shin and point toes away from shin and go back and forth. So we want both actions in our feet. And I love that even if you lost this ability to move your foot in this way, that through practice, you can get a whole lot better at this, which is awesome. And then extend your leg out and forward. All right, now we get to do the toga. So bending your knees, I'm gonna scoot back to make sure you can see. I plant my feet on the mat or on the floor. My hands are back behind, or you can loop your arms around your shins and just lift up all 10 toes. Good, and then put your big toe down and lift up your big toe, and then put your big toe down again and lift your big toe and put your big toe down again and lift your big toe. Good, now we're gonna do the little toes. All little toes down, all little toes up, flap your toes down. Whoop, I did the wrong way on the left foot, on my actual left foot. Lift your little toes. Good, little toes down, little toes up. Good, relax your toes back down into the mat. Just let them go. Good, and then really press your big toe down, like it could go right through the floor. Excellent. Notice how that wakes up the arches in your feet. The more you press your big toe, the more you encourage central arch. Good, release. Excellent. And then attempt or imagine or pretend you could lift your pinky toe. And if you're mobile enough, maybe you can reach down and just help that pinky toe out, taking your fingers and waking up those pinky toes. Maybe not. And then release that, lift up all 10 toes again. Relax your toes, stretch your legs out and shake, 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 shake. Just let your feet flap, be nice and loose. I love all the little feet pointing at me, flapping. It's great. Okay, child's pose options. So we're gonna flip around now to hands and knees and start with a hips up child's pose, everyone. So my knees are a little bit parted. All I'm going to do is take my head down to my arms. Maybe you've got a block underneath your head. Maybe your head rests on your mat. If you need some knee cushion, a blanket or towel underneath your knees might provide just the amount of comfort you need, so that even though your knees are remarkably resilient, they might need a little care. Okay. Plant through your arms, lift yourself up away from the mat, and then pointing your knees out even just a tiny bit more. Sit your hips back as much as they'll go. So I'm going to demo just a little bit of a lean back through my hips. So if your hips come all the way down, that's great, but not necessary. So you're in this like semi position. A blanket now between calves and thighs could make a big difference. You're gonna just walk your upper body over to the left. So my right hand is reaching away from my right hip as my left hand draws a little bit closer towards my own left knee. Good, and then walk yourself around. And now I've got the opposite thing going here. I'm just reaching my right hand, sorry, that's my left hand towards the right, with my right hand coming closer to my right knee, left and right. And come back through center again. Good, take a moment here and do a little cat-cow action. And then come back to taking a seat on your mat. So you might be in cross legs. Perhaps you have your legs extended out in front of you. Maybe you're sitting back on a blanket. Yep, I'm sitting up again. And then go ahead and grab that belt or strap or whatever you've got at home. Even if you have one of those elastic exercise bands, those are great too. Just something you can hold on to. And take a pretty wide stance on your belt. I always say, like, be generous with yourself. Open up nice and wide. And then go ahead and loop the belt back behind you. And then take it all the way up and over. So if that was a lot, and it could be, you're just going to lift your belt up and overhead. Let's all pause there for a moment, actually. And while we're here up and overhead, pull on the ends of the belt. Notice that your ribs want to splay forward. Draw your rib cage back. And as you root your hips down, lift your spine up nice and long. Only if you can maintain that integrity, take your arms back behind you any amount. So ribs stay down, spine stays the same, arms move. And then come all the way up and over. Pause here at the top again. Notice if you've done a little cat-cow action through your spine, right? That feeling of letting your belly roll forwards. Draw your belly in and then stretch your arms up to the ceiling, pulling on your belt. And then lower your arms down and just shake it out, shake it out. Now we're shaking out our hands. Good. Grab a hold of a block. Again, a book could work or just your imagination. So I'm going to hold the block on the wide side and reach my arms out and forward. And this is fun and interesting and brain work. So as you press your hands into the block, you're going to roll your shoulders. I'm just moving my shoulders up and around. And notice how holding the block actually makes rolling your shoulders much harder. Closed chain. And then go in the opposite direction. Good work for your brain. And again, if you don't have a block, pretend you have a block. And then lower your arms down and just take a break. Notice any heat or warmth or tingling sensation through your shoulders. Notice any feelings of difference or change. All interesting information. And then hold your block again and raise your block. So now we're going to go slowly and break down those shoulder rolls. So elevate your shoulders some amount towards your ears. Now don't squeeze off the blood flow to your brain, but just lift your shoulders. And then slide your shoulder blades together, but keep your shoulders elevated, shoulder blades elevated. And then with your shoulders back, slide your shoulder blades down and then keep them down as you reach your arms forward. So we're just doing a shoulder roll, but it's super slow. And then again, stay forward and come up with your shoulder blades. Stay up and come back. Good, stay back and slide down. Notice if your head is moving with your shoulder blades, keep down and slide forward or glide forward. Good, and then let's reverse it. Stay down, slide back, stay back and lift up. With uplifted shoulders, push forward. Are your arms getting tired? Mine are. Slide down and forward, down and back, back and up and forward. Oh, release your block. Let your arms go. Woo! Shake it out. Do a little wiggle. I'm doing a little washing machine here from side to side, a little twist back and forth. It just feels good. Do a little head and neck roll. Again, keep it sweet. So your rolls could be small, fast, or slow. Go one way and then the other way. Awesome. And then we're going to come back to that shoulder roll and notice if it feels any different. You roll one way and roll the other way. And then just for fun, because I love doing things like this because they're so good for the brain, the strength of your brain. You're going to just roll your left shoulder up and back. Left shoulder. Good. And keep that. And now roll your right shoulder forward as you roll your left shoulder back. Good. And then reverse it. Yes, notice how you'd like to roll both of your shoulders in the same direction. That's great. Just keep working it. Good, and release. So normally when I teach this in class, this is what happens, right? A little shimmy, which is different than this. See how I've got both shoulders going, but in opposite directions? I know, brains are exploding now everywhere. Okay, that was awesome. Thank you. Let's go back to hands and knees. All righty. So you may want to replace that blanket underneath your knees if you had one before, or if you're okay, like my yoga space is carpeted, so my knees have that extra bit of cushion. And then with your fingers turned out just slightly, and there's a good bit of distance between your hands and your knees, you're going to come into that all fours quadruped position. And then just hug your arms in towards one another and bend your elbows so that your elbows come all the way down to the mat. And then placing your hands firmly down into the mat, press down to lift your elbows up away from the floor. So it's like a push-up, but on your knees. And you know, it shouldn't be an incredible strain. And then do that again. Bend your elbows and then lift your elbows. Good, and again, just like that, bend your elbows, try and track your elbows with your wrists. Push down into the floor and lift your elbows. Good, last time, bend your elbows and lift your elbows. All right, so if your hands bother you, the pressure on your wrists is too much, you can grab your blocks for this next part and put them underneath your forearms in the medium side, and they'll just take all the weight off of your wrists. Otherwise, your hands will be on the mat and you're going to stretch your right leg up and back behind you for balancing table, which up here everyone calls bird dog. I don't know why, but that's what they do. All right, press fingertips down, lift your spine long, keep your leg elevated, and see if you can find your weight balanced right in the middle. So you're not leaning into your left hip or swaying, you're right through center. And then set your right knee back down on your mats. Good, take your left leg up and back behind you, fingertips pressed, left leg long. Once again, instead of sending all your weight to the right, draw your weight back to the left and really lengthen out through the crown of your head and all the way out through your heels. So again, your musculature is responsive. When we use things, we get better at them. That in and of itself is resiliency. Good, release. All right, again, for those fun kind of combo brain work things, we're going to combine those two actions. So if you had your hands up on blocks, take the blocks out. And what you're going to do is at the same time, bend your elbows and take your right leg back. And then push down into the floor, lift your elbows and put your right knee down. And then same thing on the left side, bend your elbows, take your left leg back, straighten your elbows, take your left knee down. Good. All right, let's repeat that because maybe you just got it. Elbows down, leg back. Elbows up, knee down. So if this is starting to bother your knees, feel free to just do the elbow piece rather than the knee piece. Bend your elbows, left leg back. Lift your elbows, left knee up. One more time each side. Now that you really have it, go ahead and lift your right, lower your elbows. Put your right leg down, elbows come up. Lower your elbows, left leg back. Lift your elbows, left knee down. Good, take a rest break. So come back into your variation of child's pose. Maybe your hips sit all the way back. Maybe you're in that elevated hip position, head down, puppy pose, or an Anatasana variation. And once again, where has the movement created a shift or change? Has the movement created a shift or change? It's always good to stay open just to the question. Good, come back up to hands and knees. And we're going to do what I call baby vinyasa. So vinyasa means flow. And they're just like little cat cows that take it a little bit further. So as you exhale, you're going to round your spine into that cat pose position. And then maybe your weight shifts forward a little bit over your wrists. And then you lift your heart more like a cow pose. And then you might shift all the way back towards child's pose in that rounded position. Weight off of your hands. And then come forward, heart lifts any amount towards cow pose. And then go back and forth. It's like a bigger version of cat-cow. But it's also a little bit like our sun salute variation. So I like it as a substitute sun salute. One more time. Leaning back and leaning forward. All right, so have your blocks up at the top of your mat just in case. Go ahead and lift your hands and place your right foot forward. That in and of itself is a little balancing work there. So now I'm in knee down lunge pose. Take your hands to blocks or mat. Spread your toes out and then just move your hips forward and back. And it does not have to be far. I'm not looking for a deep stretch. I'm looking for mobilization, meaning your ability to move. Good, come into the center. All right, this is balancing work in addition to many other things. So you can always stay in that knee down lunge, but grab your belt or tie and place it in your right hand up and overhead and bend your right elbow. And then reach back way far away from your right hand with your left hand. So see, I've got a good bit of distance between my hands. And in my upright knee down lunge position, again, you could do this standing up. You could do this with your back knee up, lots of options. You're gonna go ahead and straighten your right elbow more or less and bend your left elbow. So you wanna leave a lot of distance between your hands. And then straighten your left arm and bend your right arm. And then in each of these positions, you decide how much of a little pull you want to give, how much resistance you're looking for as you floss your shoulders with this belt back behind you. So this is cow face arms using a belt in knee down lunge pose. Lots of things going on here, back and forth. All right, are you remembering to keep that thread of awareness on your breath? Good. Next time your right elbow is bent, stay. Point your right elbow up to the ceiling. Take your rib cage and bring it back towards the top of your hips. And then press the back of your head back. So my chin stays parallel. My head is in neutral. And breathe here just for a moment more. There should maybe a lot of work on that right shoulder. And then let that go. Belt to the side. Roll out your shoulders. Good. Take your hands back down to the block. Excellent. And we'll switch sides. Replace your right knee. Lift your hand so that you can put your left foot forwards. Same little series there. So I'm going to take my hands to the blocks at first. Again, or water bottles, or even down on your mat if that's easy for you. And then I'm just shifting my hips forward and back, a little loosening. I almost hear my hips making like a creaking sound as we're opening up. But the more you move, the more you get to move. So that's really key in my yoga practice. I try and move all the parts so I can move more of my parts. Good. Stack your bones. Come on upright. No, it's a balancing pose. Grab your belt. Belt goes in the left hand now. Bend your left elbow. Give yourself a lot of distance right between your hands on the belt because you're aiming to straighten more or less. And then extend your left arm. Bend your right elbow. Notice the difference from the sides. Do the opposite. Bend your left arm, straighten your right. And then you'll just move carefully between one arm extended and one arm flexed at the elbow, back and forth. Good. You decide how much resistance to create, whether it's like 10% of your effort, or maybe you're up to a whole 30% of your potential effort. On this one in particular, I really wouldn't go above that like 50% effort mark, else you'll have very sore shoulders tomorrow. And then next time your top elbow is bent, your left elbow, go ahead and stay. Aim your elbow up for the ceiling. Align your head with the rest of your spine so it just sits up over. Anchor your hips and give a gentle pull with that bottom hand. And you'll feel a whole lot in your left shoulder. Just the right amount, I hope. And then release that. Set your belt to the side. Find your blocks again. Good. Bring your left knee back. And we get to take a nice rest break here in child's pose or hips up child's pose, or some way of just settling our energy back down, letting our shoulders rest. If you get your head down to block our mat, you may want to take your arms onto either side of you for this variation of child's pose. But it's perfectly fine to have your hands and arms rest wherever it feels most beneficial. And then take those hands forwards if you took them back. We're coming up into downward facing dog pose. You always have permission in my class to skip the down dog and just come into a forward fold. If you're with me, spread your fingers, turn your toes, lean your hips back. Keep your arms in the same place and just lift your knees and stretch your legs out all the way or part of the way. Bent knees are, again, really fine. Take a breath here. Good. And then bend your knees intentionally as you walk your hands back and you're in forward fold, Uttanasana. Stay in forward fold for just a moment with your knees bent and walk your hands a little bit over to the left. Again, your knees are bent so you can find the floor more easily. And then walk to center and take your hands all the way over to the right. And then root through both feet and come back up nice and slow. Float those arms up and overhead. And then exhale, your hands land at your heart. And take the very short walk to the top of your mat. Okay. So spread your toes out on your mat here in Tadasana at the top of your mat. Take another nice deep breath in. Reach up and overhead. Notice how your arms move so easily now that we did all that shoulder work, or not, you get to decide. And then fold over your legs back to forward fold. Take a halfway lift, just a breath in, and then exhale, release into forward bend. Stay here for a moment and bounce your knees. So I'm straightening and bending my knees, not really locking out in either position, just moving through, encouraging that freedom in movement, and then press through your feet. Now come all the way back up, arms up and overhead, hands come back to heart center. So a little half sun salute. Grab a hold of your belt again. I know, lots of belt things today. So I was like, you could use something. But again, you could always just pretend, step your feet out almost as wide apart as your mat. My pinky toes are probably an inch away from the sides of my mat. And hold your belt back behind you with your palms facing towards the back of your mat. Lengthen your spine, roll the head of your arm bones around with a gentle pull between your hands. So my belt is taut. Good, pause. Keep your rib cage in, bend your elbows. So I'm actively bending my elbows up for the ceiling. Now that might be more of an imaginative exercise than an actual movement as you bend your elbows. And then keep your elbows bent and lift the head of your arm bones back behind you. So your arms are in extension now. Notice that your head just flew forwards, and slide and glide your head back. And breathe into this position. It's work. And then release your arms. Pause. We're going to repeat that, maybe with additions. So, I mean, all of us have been rolling forwards, right? Leaning over our tech. So it just feels nice to do the opposite. Soft knees. Go ahead, hold your belt. Create a little resistance. Roll the head of your arm bones to begin. Good. And then pause, lengthen your spine, soft ribs, bend your elbows, and lift your elbows up for the ceiling. Again, whether or not that happens is not really important. Good. From here, maybe you roll your shoulder blades in towards your spine. So my elbows are bent, my shoulder blades roll towards one another, my ribs drop towards the top of my hips. Take a breath in and get an inch taller. Excellent. And then bring your arms up higher if you can. And then release. Woo! That's some work. Set your belt to the side. I know. Usually by the time I'm done with a prop, people are like, I never want to see that belt or block or blanket ever again. It's fine. Okay. So here's what we're going to do in this wide-legged stance. You're going to have soft knees and take a breath in, bring your arms up. Bring your hands back to your heart, and then take your left foot, so this is my actual left foot now, and step it back behind you, just like that. Like a smooth transition here. Good, so now I'm in a modified warrior 2. Reach your arms out. So again, we're doing like a little dance. You're gonna take your left hand on your leg and your right arm over. So I'm not mirroring for this one. This is my actual right leg forward, left leg back. Good, come back, arms wide. And then you're gonna take the big step up to the top of your mat, back to that wide leg stance. And release your arms. Good, we're gonna repeat that second side. So now my back's gonna be facing you. Because if I just float back and forth, because we're gonna try and take it up a notch. All right, here we go. So you're gonna go ahead and float your arms up. Bring your hands to heart, soft knees. Step your right foot back. Again, multiple steps are fine. I'm in warrior 2, a little bit short. Reach your arms out. Flip your left arm up. Keep moving your left knee out to the left. Good, take a breath here in your reverse warrior. Come back up to warrior 2. And then big step forward to the top of your mat and release your hands. All right, so I'd like to take that like some kind of weird waltz back and forth. So you're gonna inhale up, hands to heart, step your left foot back, reach your arms wide, reach back, stretch up, come back to warrior 2, step yourself forward, release your hands, sweep your arms up, bring your hands to your heart, keep soft bend in your knees, take your right leg back, bring your arms wide. And if you're off my pace, that's fine. Reach your arms up, stretch back. Good, stretch yourself out. Step forward to the top of your mat. Release your hands. One more time each side. Reach your arms up. Good, bring your hands to your heart. Step your right foot back. Reach your arms wide. Stretch back. So it doesn't matter how wide your stance is. If your warrior 2 is perfect, whatever. Good, step your left foot forward, soft knees. Release your hands. Last time, inhale up. Hands to heart as you bring your right foot back. Reach your arms out wide. Stretch up and back. Good, come back up. Step to the top of your mat. Release your arms, pause, catch your breath, let everything slow and settle yet again. So this big activation and then this nice, sweet, soft settling. And we need both. That's the lovely thing about yoga. We get both. Alrighty. So we're gonna do a little arm swim here. So I'm gonna stand and face you, but you can stay up at the top of your mat just so you can see. So I'm gonna bring my arms up and forwards and over my head. Good, and then I'm gonna take my arms and take them out to the sides and way back behind me, like they're holding the belt still. Can you see my arms are back behind? And then I do it again. I swim around and bring my arms up. And then they're following these big half circles as I bring my hands all the way back. And I'm trying to stay. Body doesn't move, just arms. Reach your arms up. And then swim your arms back. Good, 2 more times. Swim up and swim back. Good, release. Okay, yet another fun belt activity. So this time, you're gonna have your arms out in front of you, holding onto the belt just a little wider than your shoulders. So palms face down towards the floor for this one. And I'm right in line, like just below the level of my own shoulders. And then what you're gonna do is bend your elbows out to the sides. Try and keep your arms parallel to the floor and pull the belt in towards you. And then push your belt away. Again, the rest of your torso stays stable. As you pull the belt in towards you, create resistance by pulling on the belt. And then push the belt away. And then one more time, pull the belt in towards you. So the belt is right out in front of me. And push the belt away. Last time, pull the belt in, pull on your belt, and push the belt away, and then release. It does not seem like a belt should create that much effort, but boy, does it ever an effort, both. All righty, let's grab a hold of those blocks, and we're gonna do a little hamstring love because we've done lots of arm work and lots of shoulder work. So standing tall at the top of your mat, take a nice big breath in and reach up. And then exhale, you're gonna take a forward bend, potentially with bent knees. Step your left foot back, that little step back, just like you did in the Warrior 2 variation. And your right foot is forward. Your hips could be wherever you need them to be. Plant down through your feet. Definitely use something underneath your hands, again, unless you're super mobile. And then squeeze your heels towards one another. It's a little hug, creating that lovely muscular response. And then press your feet away from one another and reach your heart out and forward. And we'll repeat that gentle pulse. Pull your feet in towards one another. And then gentle press out and away. And then one more time, pull your feet towards one another. And then gentle push out and away. And then please just place your left foot in line with your right foot and take a little knee bounce here. Spine long, hold your blocks for support. Bend and straighten your knees to your capacity. And then second side, take your right leg back this time, left foot is forward. Your front knee might not straighten all the way. That, again, once perfectly acceptable, our yoga gets to be our own. And then you're gonna create both spinal length and this engagement by hugging your heels like they could meet in the middle of your mat. And then pushing your leg bones out and away from your hip sockets. And then do it again. Feet squeeze towards one another. Feet press out and away. So just pulse like that 2 more times, pulling in and pressing out. And then last time, pulling in and pressing out. Good. Step back to the top of your mat. Let your heavy head release. Keep your legs strong. Root into the floor to come all the way back up. Bring your arms up and overhead. Stretch up. And then hands come to your heart. Good. We're going to come on down to our knees. So that knee padding might be super important. All right. So you're going to stand up on your knees, otherwise known as a kneel. And you might want blocks on either side of your ankle bones. Making sure mine are on my mat so they don't fall off. All right, so we're going to do a camel ustrasana variation that should be a little bit more gentle. So you could, just like I'm doing right now, lean a little bit over to your left. If your hand happens to find your block, great. If it doesn't, no worries. So you're doing a little half camel here. And then bring your right arm up and over and just stretch up and back. So ustrasana, ardha ustrasana, half camel pose. Good, root your leg bones down towards the earth and really pull that right arm up and away. And then pressing down, lift yourself back upright. So you get that lovely rebound off the ground, ground force reaction. And then we get to do the other side. So first just tilt, right? This might be the limit of your pose today. Awesome. Or you're gonna take your hand back behind you. That would be right hand. Bust up number 2. Bust up number 3, bring your arm up and over and create a lean. So now as you loop your hips, you're gonna press through your feet and lift your left hand out and away from your left shoulder. Ustrasana variation. Good. Sorry, I bet you lost me for a second. Am I back on? Cool. Awesome. It's the downside of using my internet. We're back though. You're probably like, oh, thank God. I don't know how long she was going to hold us in that pose. We're going to do it again. And then we get to come down to the floor. All right, I'm checking my time. Oh, we got time. So come on back up. So let's say being on your knees is not working. Do this standing up. It's the same. Do it in a chair. I love options. So now we're going to take that same lean to your left, just leaning. And then reach back for your block. Again, that's a maybe. Maybe you're just dangling. That's awesome. Reach your right arm up and over. Big breath here. Okay, so here's an option. Either you're going to come up and find the block to the right, or you're going to turn your heart towards the ceiling, let your right hand come down and switch sides from the back bend. Take your right hand down, bring your left arm up. Again, you could repeat what we just did, or you're going to roll up and roll back down, or you're going to stay in the back bend, let your left arm come down and bring your right arm up. Good. Stay high up over your knees. One more time each side. Bring your right arm down, bring your left arm up, and switch. Bring your left arm down, bring your right arm up. Come all the way up and come into that puppy pose or child's pose, or some way of stretching your whole spine out after that back bend. So hips back, heart settles, back of your body is full. Breathe into your back. Alrighty, come on up and come onto your backs. Yay, okay. So lying back down in that constructive rest, again, put a blanket underneath your head if that feels better, towel, whatever you got at home, and take the backs of your arms down onto your mat. So my arms are in goalpost arms, my feet are on my mat, spine in neutral. And then keep your elbows down, but lift your hands up. So now my fingers point up towards the ceiling, and the whole upper arm bone is resting towards or onto the floor. And now reach your hands down towards the floor, turning your palms down. My shoulders will lift for this one. So I'm in internal rotation in my arms, shoulders lift up, hands are reaching towards the floor. My hands don't come down. So if yours don't either, don't worry about it. And then do the opposite. Bring your fingertips back up to point to the ceiling. Take the backs of your hands towards or to the floor. Whatever part of your arms touch the floor, go ahead and press those down towards the floor and soften through your belly again. So your rib cage settles towards the mat. Maintain neutral position in your spine and bring your fingertips back up towards the ceiling. And then internally rotate and take your palms so that they point down towards the mat. Good. Shoulders might lift above the mat. That is normal. Good. Re-rotate so that your fingers point up. And then once again, the backs of your hands release down towards or to the mat. Keep your shoulders on your mat for this. And then one at a time, pick your feet up until both feet are lifted. Your shoulder blades stay down, and you're going to rock your knees towards the right. Press your left shoulder blade down. And then to come back to center, push your right shoulder blade down and take your hips to neutral. Take your knees a little bit over to the left. Press your right shoulder blade down. To come back to center, push your left shoulder blade further into the floor and rock back to center. We're going to repeat that. Lean your knees to the right, take your left shoulder blade and anchor it strongly. And then to rock to center, press your right shoulder blade and lift your knees. Keep your right shoulder blade down as you turn your knees to the left. Stay connected to your mat, especially through your left shoulder blade to rock back to center. And put your feet back down on the floor. Let your arms release down at your sides. And once again, connect back to your breath. Where do you feel your breath now? So we arbitrarily divide the body into 3 breathing sections. So maybe you feel your breath in your upper chest or around your ribs, or in the lowest part of your belly, or all 3, or nowhere at all. You don't feel your breath. It happens. And then pick up your right foot. Go ahead and point your toes yet again and extend your right leg as far as it'll extend, and see if it extends better than it did in the beginning of class. Better meaning longer or more straight or whatever you want. It's not really better. And then pull your toes back and hug your heel into your hip. And then point your toes and stretch your right leg up. Keep your right leg extended. Perhaps you keep your left foot on the mat, or you're going to go ahead and take your left leg out and extend your left leg out straight as well. So now I'm more in a lying down, hand to toe pose with no arms. Good. Stay here, or one more option. You can lift your head and your heart and reach towards your left toes. Definitely optional, little core work. And then roll back down. Bend both knees and place your feet back down. Take a moment. Allow your breath to settle your body. Find that rebound, the strong action to the calm resiliency. And then again, lift your left foot, point your toes, extend your leg, flex your foot, bring your heel back down. Point your toes, leg lengthens. Whatever position your leg is in on the left side is great. Either keep your right foot connected to the mat or reach through your right leg as well on the mat. And then be here for a moment, or go ahead and peel up your head and your shoulder blades and act like you could touch your left toes. Right toes, left toes too, but right toes. Good little core work. And then roll back down to the floor. Let your head release. Bend both of your knees. Plant your feet. Good. Just take a nice easy peasy windshield wiper from side to side, letting your hips rock and your knees rock. I'm really loving the windshield wipers lately. Good. Point your knees up to the ceiling and give yourself a hug. Wrap your right arm on top of your left arm. Your shoulder blades will separate. Go ahead and point your elbows up towards the ceiling. Again, more or less. Breathe here. Let everything else soften. There's just the activation through your arms. Soft, steady breaths. Unwind tension between your shoulder blades and at the tops of your shoulders. Good. Separate your arms out and then wrap them on the other side, this time taking your left elbow over your right elbow. I know if you did the wrong side, no worries. Just make sure you get both. So one elbow over the other. Lift your elbows just slightly. Quiet and calm your breath. Notice where you feel your breathing, and can you perceive breath now? Moving into the back of your body, between your shoulder blades, behind the space of your heart. And then let that go. Let your arms release down at your sides. Stretch your legs out. Employ your prop support. So maybe you want to put your legs on a blanket or a rolled up towel. Maybe you put a blanket over you just for a little bit of weight and warmth. But come into your resting pose, Shavasana. And we'll spend a few minutes here, once again, giving ourselves that resilient capacity. So we activate and then we rest. Once you've settled your whole body out on your mat, imagine that there is a bubble of light surrounding you. And this bubble completely encircles your body and your mat. And in this protected space, you breathe in imaginary silver light, and you breathe out imaginary gold. And it's just an image. So don't get too caught up on the color of the light and your movement with breath, but just keep coming back to breathing in silver, breathing out gold. Your protective bubble, allowing you to just spend this time really settling in. You've given yourself permission to just stay here for a few minutes longer. The energy you've built in class, giving you strength and creative capacity, and maybe even more energy through this day. Breathe in silver, breathe out gold. On your next few rounds of breath, reacquaint yourself with your physical form. Imagine your breath traveling all the way into your toes and your fingers, and they begin to move. Take a whole body stretch, opening up, really moving those arms away from toes and toes away from feet. I mean, yeah, toes away from arms. There you go. And then bend up your knees. Make your way over onto your side. Good. Roll your way back up. Excellent. Bring your hands to your heart. Good. In celebration of this remarkably resilient body and brain that you have, we'll sing our own. Just offering gratitude towards our body's own capacity for recovery, for its ability to continue to move and groove, to take on all the things that we need to. We'll sing our own. Take a breath in. Thank you very much for coming and taking class with me today. I bow to each of you.